welcome to number 294 of the Whatnauts review show, where each week we got a different story to talk about. Each episode we have a different story to talk about. Not week. I have to correct myself on that one now. You'd think I would know our new intro by now, but I don't. We read it, we watch it, we come back here, and we talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how's your weekend been?
It's good. Got a facial yesterday.
Ooh.
A whole treatment. Ate a crepe. The fanciest food.
You had like a whole spa day, it sounds like.
I had like a whole spa at 60 to 75 minutes. It doesn't take a whole day.
Sometimes that's all you need, right?
Yeah.
Good. That's cool. Good stuff. We tried to do mostly nothing this weekend, since we did all of our errands and stuff last weekend for our 3-day weekend. We were like, let's just not do anything this weekend, which was also really nice. So there you go. Well, let's see. We got some comics to talk about this week on the show, which is exciting. Last time we read some comics was earlier in the year. We read The Human Target. But this time we are going independent, indie comics. We read the first 2 volumes of Chu by John Layman and Rob Guillory, published by Image Comics. Yeah, this is one that's here on the show, at least. I know I've mentioned it a ton, just kind of in passing. So Melissa, you've heard about it, but this was your first time reading it.
Yes.
What based on all the stuff I said, what did you expect this comic to be?
You had initially pitched that we read 4 volumes, and I said, I'm starting a new job. I think my brain might be too full to read 4 volumes. Can we just do 2? And you're like, 2 is fine. And don't worry, this comic's really stupid, so it should be a quick read.
Yeah, it's great.
And it was. This thing is big, deep, silly. And I really enjoyed it.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, this was... So my dad had comics that I always looked at and admired when I was younger, but I actually never really read them. I just looked at the art and was like, wow, that's cool. And it wasn't until college that I started buying them and... I guess you could say collecting them. I'm not like a collector where I need to have every single issue and one of my favorite old runs and all the variant covers. But this was one of the first indie books that I started buying. I was like, let me start to buy all the issues of this as they come out. And so I was reading this month to month. And yeah, I had a blast with this. I absolutely loved it. It was just, it's very, very different from any kind of like superhero comics that were out there at the time. And still, I think with the art style that this comic has, it's just, it is kind of very much its own thing. It's real recognizable. And it helps it to stand out. And I was just like, this one seems fun. And it absolutely is. It is a blast. It is ridiculous. There's some great jokes that happen in this series, both in what they say and what they do, but also like notes and signage in the background, headlines you see on newspapers or things like pinned up on the wall or stuff like that. It's just filled with jokes and commentary on stuff that I thought was a blast. And I know I've also mentioned it because Melissa, you and I are both big Lost fans, and the 2 main characters are kind of modeled off of Miles and Sawyer, which is a blast. That. Yeah, so good stuff all around. I highly recommend this. There is quite a bit of it. I think there's like 12 volumes or so that you guys can get in all sorts of different editions. At one point, they were working on a live action show. it didn't happen. Then they switched to an animated show. Stephen Yoon was going to play the main character. That didn't really pan out, I don't
Oh,
think. They've done a couple board games or have like tried to kickstart
whoa.
them based on this. And there's even a newer spin-off series. I don't know if it's still going or not. Also called Chu, but spelled like his last name is spelled in this book, Chu. And I think it focuses on one of the brothers. So yeah, the people really love this. There were all kinds of plushies you could get of some of the characters that show up in the book, and the
The
things here
weird fruit.
so they hinted at one in this that we did not get to in these first two volumes, but they introduced this thing called a chog or a frickin', and it
Oh,
is a mix between a chicken and a frog. Um, and so they make all these weird little plushies of these things. So I think it's safe to say this book had a pretty like widespread audience that really enjoyed it. So good on them. Go check out Chew.
mhm.
Well, listen, do you have any other kind of thoughts on the book that you wanted to add to that?
We haven't described what it is yet.
Sure.
And I did know the premise. I'd like seen this in a comic book store years ago. And it's not a premise you forget. Chu follows Detective Tony Chu, who has the power to eat something and get a psychic impression of where it came from. If he eats an apple, he can see the tree it grew on, what sort of pesticides might have been in that orchard, who was the man who picked the apple, how was it
Right.
processed. And he can also like take a bite of somebody's arm, or if he's in a fight and he gets like a drop of blood that splatters into his mouth, he gets a psychic impression of that person, which he uses to help himself out as a detective. And in this world where there was some terrible bird flu that led to most countries in the world outlawing chicken, he works for the FDA and their special food crimes division on
Yeah.
like chicken drug busts.
Yeah, the whole thing is just purely ridiculous. That he is an agent of the FDA, right? He's
It's all
he's
very
treating
serious.
chicken like it's weed or cocaine or something like that,
Mhm.
right? I
There's
guess
a scene
nowadays
in an
weed is mostly
alley.
legal. Yeah.
There's a scene in an alley where a guy's like, "Hey man, you want the good stuff?" And he opens up his trench coat and it's full of eggs.
Yeah, he's got. I got the raw, that hard boiled, that over easy, that. Yeah, all sorts of stuff like that. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, if nothing else, it's a great like lighthearted, kind of jokey comic, but also has like there is an overarching story that is taking place. There is a mystery
Mhm.
here that keeps its through line the entire way in this comic. Um, and in these first two volumes, we've kind of only gotten the start of this, that there are other people with powers out there, not necessarily the same ones that Tony
Mhm.
has, but other food related powers. We eventually meet a character who cannot speak, but can speak through his food. And so we'll make like a 7-course meal that is like the entire masterworks of Shakespeare if you eat
Mhm.
that, which is fantastic, right? Um,
Mhm.
all sorts of stuff like that. And then something that kind of makes itself known as the book continues is where did this chicken flu come from? What caused it? What happened? And that is one of the big central mysteries in this show here, and or in this comic. And it is every bit as strange and weird as you might expect, but it's good fun.
Yeah.
So indeed. Well, yeah, that is the plot synopsis of the book. Highly recommend it. Go check it out. It is available on Comixology Unlimited if you have that. I think I also found it on Hoopla. If you have a
Yep.
library card, I'm sure you can check it out over there as well. So yeah, there's tons of places you guys can go pick this one up. Cool. Well, let's get into some housekeeping. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we will dive a little bit more into these comics and discuss them a bit more in depth. We will be right back. Thank you so much for checking out this podcast. We hope you're enjoying it. If you didn't know, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. But none of this is possible without your support. Head over to patreon.com/thewhatnauts and you can get access to over 40 hours of exclusive content, including our Patreon first podcast, The Pilots Club, when you sign up at our $3 tier. Of course, there is a free version of the Pilots Club available, but episodes are exclusive to our Patreon for 2 years before they hit the free feeds. If you're interested in buying merch, we have shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more for sale over at thewhatnauts.com/store. Another great way to help us out is by subscribing and leaving a nice rating and review on your podcasting app of choice. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for video versions of the show, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, you can always find out more information about the shows we make on our website, thewhatnauts.com. All right, we are back once again. A big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We thank you. We love you a lot. It means a ton. Over on the Pilots Club this month, we actually, right after we record this podcast, we are recording our episode on Bosch, the long-running Amazon Prime crime detective show that it's always kind of fascinated me. It was one that I did not watch while it was still going. Didn't hear many people talking about it, but kind of in hindsight, when I did hear people talking a bit about it, everyone loved it. They were like, "Oh, it's fantastic! It's great! Go check it out!" And I never did. So here we are, being like, "What was up with that show?" So be on the lookout for that one. And then over on the free version of the Pilots Club this month, we got to talk about the pilot episode of The West Wing. Also a long-running show that people highly enjoyed. I have still only seen the pilot of that show. Have not gone back to that one, but that was a very good pilot.
It seems like a big commitment. I think there's a lot of West Wing, and they talk very fast, so it's like twice as many words as any other show.
Yeah, indeed. But if you want to go hear our thoughts on the pilot of The West Wing, that will be up on the first Friday of the month. Yeah, and then right over here on the review show, last episode we got to talk about North by Northwest. That one was a lot of fun. We did that for the 65th anniversary of that movie. Melissa and I both got to see it in theaters it was re-released as a Fathom event. I think that was the first proper Fathom event that I've been to.
They're a great resource. I don't know where we'd be without Fathom events as a culture.
That one was a blast. And then last but not least, over on the Captain's Log, we did some Summer Game Fest predictions. Did some video game predictions just in the next couple weeks here. There's going to be all kinds of video game showcases, new trailers, announcements, all kinds of stuff like that. And so Ignacio joined us, and we questioned Melissa and her magic 8-ball to see if our predictions would come true or not. But yeah. We got some good stuff over here at the Whatnauts for y'all to check out. That's about it for housekeeping right now. So let's get into spoilers on Chu. Okay. Melissa, I already asked you what your like expectations going in to the book, or like what was something that surprised you or stood out to you about this book, um now that you've gotten to read these first two volumes here?
I thought it was going to be more of a quirky case of a week. We have a murder. He has to lick a dead body, and then that helps him solve the murder. I was not expecting uh, small island conspiracy theories and Russian vampires. Just
Yep.
how extreme it went. I thought we'd spend a little bit more time in beat cop territory before we
Sure.
got
Yeah.
into the Russian vampires in a secret, like, astronomical base in the Arctic.
Yeah, no, he's almost like immediately strapped to a rocket and launched into. Now you're this like world traveling secret agent that like he's in this position that kind of makes him James Bond in the sense that he's traveling to all these other countries, but he's also nothing like James Bond at all.
Yeah.
He still seems like this small time beat cop whenever he shows up on this scene, even though he's also kind of not, right. It's just his like weird powers that get him sent to all these different places, and the United States being this like global superpower that they are, right. He's just kind of inserted into all of these global conflicts and scandals surrounding chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I think for me, going back and reading these, because it's been quite a while since I've read these books. I I was looking more to his partner, who kind of immediately in the first book almost gets taken out. He gets
Mm.
a butcher's knife to the face, and then is in the hospital for a while. And then when he comes back, he has this like bionic face. He's almost like the
Uh-huh.
Terminator here, and he immediately gets pulled in to also work for the FDA. They are the ones that supply all the cyber bionics that he has in him. And he gets repartnered with Tony. They hate that. They now hate each
Mhm.
other. But then they also don't. They start, making.
Mm.
There's one scene where his partner's starting to be like real racist, and it's almost uncomfortable. Like, oh yeah, this is a book written in like early like 2010s. Maybe some of this stuff hadn't really, and then it's like, oh no, that's the joke. They do that to each other to kind of riff on each other.
Mm.
They actually are like best buds.
Mhm.
To the point where when Tony kind of goes off by himself to this like small island and stumbles into this weird plant that tastes like chicken, a conspiracy theory revolution thing happening over on that island, he asks his partner to stall. And the only way that he can think of to stall the boss to like not send him on any more cases is to sleep with him. And we get this like one page like meanwhile, and it's like the morning
Yeah.
after, and they're both sitting there like eyes like, what did I just do? Like eyes wide open. Um, that is something that continues through the book, their
Mm.
relationship there. I did not expect it to be so like be introduced so early on
Huh.
in the book. So I was kind of surprised that like, oh, we also get this aspect of this is kind of wild. Because yeah, there's it's also just a mile a minute, things are happening left and right here in
Mhm.
in this book. But I quite
In a
enjoyed the stuff with his partner.
in addition to his partner being a cyborg, at the end of the first volume, an antagonist like bites off Tony Chu's ear. An enemy who also has this cybopathy where he can
Yeah.
get a psychic
Mason.
impression of what he eats. Yes. So he eats, I don't know if he eats it. I think he takes it to like nibble on. He has not consumed it. I think he still has the ear in a box,
Yeah.
but he's
like
missing an
keeping it
ear.
in case he needs to
Yeah.
like, what's Chew up to right now? Nibble, 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 right?
I need more secrets. I need
Yeah.
to go deeper. So he has a cybernetic ear, just an ear, which looks so dorky next to his full like Terminator of a partner. And his boss, Appleby, really hates Tony Chu and like fudged the paperwork to deny the fact that he's supposed to get a cybernetic implant that does match his skin tone. This guy like went in and canceled that out. So it is a like metallic silver ear stuck on the side of his head that like he really cannot hide.
Yeah. It's just not the right color. It stands out.
And of all the things to be a metallic silver prosthetic part, an ear is not a cool one. Yeah. There is a fun scene where him and his partner are on some case and they're being threatened. And the partner's like, look at him. Look at you see how seriously the government takes our FDA agents? That ear is a tracking device. If you kill him, the government will like drop bombs on this place. They'll be after you. Do you want to take a chance? Doesn't that thing look really sleek and high tech? Huh?
Yeah.
And then that's how they get out of that scrape, which I like that this book does have really dynamic action, really fun, goofy fight scenes, but also stories will climax like that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of wild the stuff that they get into. We read the first two volumes, and that's the first 10 issues, which is a good small chunk.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. Like, I think in most cases we maybe would have stayed with the like beat scene for an extra issue or two before he's like truly introduced. And then like volume 2 would be like, okay, let's open your eyes to the world of these like food-based superpowers and things like that. But no, we're just kind of skyrocketed right into it. Issue 1, we meet D-Bear, who's a chicken dealer, but he's also working for the FDA, so he's kind of allowed to sell his illegal chicken as long as he provides information. And like we get introduced to Mason Savoy, who also has these powers. He's this kind of big giant bear of a man. I in my head, I don't know why, I always kind of hear him as oh god, what's his name? Why am I blanking on his name? I always blank on his name. And of course, the movie that my head is saying, say that one, because he's in that one, is a terrible example. He's also in the James Bond, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Sean Connery?
Yes, he sounds like Sean Connery. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name.
That makes sense. You know, he's got the silver beard. I think the concept art notes say that he's part grizzly bear, part Orson Welles.
Right.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I think at one point too, he kind of I think he mentions he's from Ireland or somewhere that way. So not really Sean Connery, but just in my head, he sounds like Sean Connery. But he is also one of the major players in this, because he is the one that introduces Tony to the FDA. He's not really his boss, but not really his partner. And then
he's also on the staff. I think it's like just the two of them who have this power on the FDA. I forget if Appleby has it, because Appleby doesn't really go anywhere. He just stays in the office and hates.
Yes, hates Tony Chu with a passion. Like, just met him and inexplicably. I hate him. Yeah.
Yeah, Mason Savoy is this mentor figure who does turn on him, who is revealed to be working against Tony Chu the whole time.
Or at least has bigger plans in
Yes.
mind. Like this is a stepping stone to solve the bigger mystery that is happening here. Um, but yeah, Tony Chu stays with the FDA. Um, yeah, and I like Savoy is also just this larger than life character, but as he's introducing Tony to this new world, so how to speak, like yeah, they go to like a chicken speakeasy. They go to this like this Russian like observatory where all the scientists have so much money to spend. They're blowing it all on like hookers and blow and alcohol, and they just have no idea what to do with themselves. And then they get killed by vampires and stuff like it's just nonstop, and it's kind of
Mm.
ridiculous. Um,
I I did like the conceit that somewhere there is a distant scientific base that is puffing up their budget because nobody from the actual government is coming to check on
right,
them because it's so remote and so desolate that they are purposefully giving themselves all this extra party cash, and they've
right, yeah.
partied so hard that now they're like, how do what is our high anymore?
Right, yeah. Um, I think what amazes me is that this entire series kind of sticks at that breakneck speed and just things happening.
Mhm.
Of course, at the same time, as you get to know the characters more and you go on adventures with them, and they fall in love or they get hurt or X, Y, and Z, who knows what. Like you start to have much more emotional stakes in this all as well. So on top of just all of the silliness, you kind of build up this attachment to the characters. Um, that I think is just fantastic. It's really good. It's fun. Um, which I guess leads me to wanting to know what you thought of Amelia Mintz, Tony Chu's love interest here.
First off, I think it's cute how innocent of a crush he has on her. It's like full heart eyes dreamweaver moment. It's really innocent and like it's not horny at all, which is it's just sweet. It's just sweet that the first time he ever sees her,
Yeah,
he absolutely adores her. Full puppy dog energy. I like that in a hard boiled detective story, there's usually like a much hornier love interest. And I like that this one is so schoolboy, innocent, sweet. I think that was a nice twist on the genre.
right. Yeah,
She has a power where she's a food critic. Her power is called like she's a cyboscribe or whatever. Cyboscrivener. I don't know.
something like that.
She
Yeah,
can she can write a description of food so precisely, so accurately that it feels like to the reader that they have eaten it. They get the exact same sensation as if they had. And she has written about all these restaurants, and now she's going on a spree about writing about restaurants that have like D ratings from the health board. Just
yeah.
miserable meals. And she's sitting there in the restaurant and she seems perfectly fine, just like nibbling away and writing notes down. And then the next day, the newspaper comes out with her food review, and everybody is reads her food review. She's a national celebrity, I
Just
guess.
starts
Open up the paper,
vomiting.
check
Yeah,
Amelia Mintz first. Yes, everybody's vomiting. That I understand. But then they also go on to describe it as like citywide food poisoning, where there's diarrhea also. And I'm like, hold on. You can like read about a gross thing and like sympathetically vomit, but I don't think your bowels are affected by that. I've never heard of anybody having like sympathy gross out diarrhea. I didn't buy that part of it.
sympathy diarrhea.
You know, like you hear somebody vomiting and then you
Yeah.
start to feel sick. Your butt doesn't do that. Butts are immune to that.
Yeah, but like that is I think that is the magic of her power, right? It's not just that you like get the taste in your mouth and it's like "Ugh, I need to like wash that out with something." It's that it's as if you've eaten it. So if you've eaten something so disgusting, yeah, you can get this like I mean, you can get food poisoning and have it come out both ends, right? So it just it's almost as if it like manifests in your stomach, right? And that's kind of it,
I
and you get
I'd like to
whatever effect that has.
I would like to that to be explored further. Like if you're hungry and you read one of her reviews, does it actually make you feel less hungry because you feel like you have eaten something?
Yes, I will say that.
Oh.
These two books just barely touch on that, but it is something that kind of reoccurs as the series goes on. When we're first introduced to Tony's powers, um, one of the things we have not mentioned yet is that the only food that does not give him this psychic impression is
Mm,
beets. And so he usually is hungry unless he can eat
mhm.
something with beets, and that
Mm.
kind of blocks his powers. Um, and so yeah, I think at least in these first two volumes, you can kind of put two and two together to be like, okay, he's mostly hungry all the time and has to survive on beets, but that kind of sucks to only eat beets all the time. And so
Yeah.
when he does get to like read some of her work, he's just like,
Yes.
oh yeah, that was great, amazing, right? Like I'm full now. Here, yeah, awesome. Um,
It is cute how they match up together that way.
yeah.
Do we ever get to the point where Tony starts growing his own food? Like if it's too much stress to eat the apple and
Mm,
then know all of this stuff about
it's
the
a good
apple.
question.
Does he ever like just start his own vegetable garden and then the only psychic impressions he gets is stuff he already knows? Like how far back does it go? Does he know like the childhood of the farmer who sold him the seeds? Or does he just know, yeah, all I saw was my own backyard. I know that. I can eat this zucchini.
That's a good question. I actually don't think that comes up, right? I don't remember it. I mean, it's been a while, so I could be wrong, but I don't know. I'm not sure. And I'm also wondering then, like, if we also met that one chef who could like speak through his stuff.
Mm,
What if he chooses not to say anything? Like, could he make a
yeah.
meal that is like is just the word hamburger because it's a hamburger, right? Ju-
Right. Can he speak only a noun? What
right?
is the least message he can give? How can you eat a soup that gives the impression that he's
Soup,
giving you the cold shoulder?
right? Yeah. I don't know. Like, I did I that is kind of the joke with this book here,
Mm.
right? Of like, what kind of disgusting, gross things can we make him eat or lick or do? Like, there's a scene in volume 2 where Tony gets arrested and put in jail.
Uh-huh.
And then some short time later, the two other cellmates are like holding him upside down, head in the toilet, giving him a swirly. And when he comes out, he like mentions to the sheriff that he knows, like, now, like, I know what they did and all of this stuff. And he kind of looks over at the toilet and goes, ew. He goes, no, no, no,
Mhm.
no, no. I got like the toilet
I
was
I
clean.
bit I bit the guy in the scuffle. That's how I
I bit
know.
the
But yeah,
yeah.
but you're right. Is piss enough? Does it have
Right.
to be
Yes.
attached
Yeah.
to the human body? If he just plucks a hair off a body and puts the hair on his tongue, how much does he get then?
Right. Yeah. Which is something that I kind of found interesting with with this comic that I thought was a really good idea in a couple different shows. One, Hannibal, which is
Yes.
a show that is all about food and making it look just
Mm.
incredible and immaculate, but also iZombie, which is
I knew.
also based off of a comic. Um,
Also, press the stop button on my timer for how long until you mention iZombie.
exactly. I loved that show. It's great. Especially if you like this book, you should go check out
Hmm.
iZombie. But in both of those shows, they prepare food where like the human meat is disguised, or the like human brain matter is disguised as something else, or they put sauce on it, right, to make it actually a meal. Whereas this book tends to not do that. There might be some instances of, like, we saw this one time where a chef accidentally cut himself and then got some
Yeah.
blood in the soup. It's just a small amount, but Tony can taste that, right? But both of those shows just make these elaborate dishes. It'll be like coconut shrimp scampi with that, but it's actually human brains, right? And I'm kind of surprised that they didn't go more human brains, right?
Coconut brains is a good,
Coconut
silly,
brains.
childish insult to call somebody.
Yeah,
Not that coconut brains.
Got nothing but milk in there. Come on, what are you doing? Hairy on the outside, milk on the center.
Milk on the inside. We're all coconuts in the end.
Exactly. But yeah, like I'm kind of surprised that this does not really go in that direction. We do get elaborate meals, meals that have powers attached to them, meals made with these weird plants that taste like chicken, but maybe aren't even from our planet. Did you expect that to have some kind of alien something happening here with this?
Boy, does it look alien. Does not look like it is of Earth.
Yeah, it's almost this like it's not a pineapple exactly, but it's
what if a
this,
pineapple had tentacles?
Right. Yes. Yeah, and like maybe like a flower on top or something. Yeah. It is just kind of this weird thing, and we do get like a brief, like 1 or 2 page sequence on another planet. So yeah, there's some strange stuff happening in the world of Chu. And these first 2 volumes, as much as I would describe them as lighthearted fun, yeah, they're also just a mile a minute. There's so much happening left and right here.
Lighthearted, very gruesome. Yep. I think very early on there was a surprisingly bloody death.
Yeah. I think also especially just what's his name getting hit in the head with the meat cleaver. Just like, ooh, right away. Take it out. Oh God. No.
I'll tell you what really surprised me is that Big Boob Woman dies the same issue in which she appears.
Yeah.
You'd expect Agent Big Boobs to be
the like Black Cat character, the sexy secret agent that Tony has a side relationship with and sleeps with every now and again.
Exactly. I was very shocked when she died pages later.
Did you see the other Lost reference?
Oh,
with her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I saw what.
Well, so when he goes to the morgue to check out
yes,
bodies,
I did see that. Yes.
There is one that has the toe tag of Jeremy Bentham, but the way she died is also the way that John Locke got paralyzed in the first place, pushed out a window and drops 12 stories, right? So yeah, there's I think maybe 1 or 2 smaller like Lost references as the book goes on.
There's another toe tag in that same morgue sequence with the name of another dead character.
Yeah. Yeah. So like it's
oh, there's
stuff
a
like
newspaper in the background that says like mysterious hatch found on island.
Yep. Yeah, there's stuff like that
Always
all over.
Good.
But it's also like I think they kind of front load it with Lost, because when this book was starting, when they were writing this, is like right as Lost was on its like final season or so ish, and so it was like big in everyone's mind, like Lost is finally coming to an end. What is the island? Where are they? What is happening? So yeah, good stuff with all of that. So yeah, this island. Let's talk about the island a little bit here, because volume 2, where we would expect them to kind of take on another case of the week, because the first one was almost so traumatic. Tony kind of takes some time off and goes to this other island, not really on a vacation, but to follow up a lead on his own time.
And we haven't mentioned his brother yet. His brother Chow Chu was a TV chef who could not cope with the lack of chicken in his life. And he had this famous meltdown on air where he's like, I refuse.
Theorist.
Yeah. I refuse to keep using this canned like chicken substitute.
Government's been
pointless.
lying.
Yeah,
Chicken food
he's like,
wasn't
chicken.
real.
Right, chicken's safe. You can eat the chicken. And so it's like taken off the air. His show is canceled. And now this little island of Yamapalu, I think, little fictional Micronesian island. Presume it's fictional. I don't think I don't think they spun the story about fictional, a real place. But no, I don't know.
This really happened, Melissa. Chicken is illegal.
I don't know every island off the top of my head. I don't.
You don't remember that Animaniacs song that listed all of the Polynesian islands?
I remember the Nations of the World song, but maybe there's been new ones since then. That song's like 30 years old. His brother has been hired to be the executive chef of a resort at this island. It's this little island that is known to be a tourist spot because it is one of the few, if not the only, country that has not outlawed chicken. Yeah. That's why his brother is going there. And so Tony's kind of tagging along, mostly to get a look at this weird fruit that only grows on this island.
Yeah. And they don't actually go together, though. They just happen to be seated next to each other on the same plane of like, oh, you're here too? God, what is this?
They're not close. They do not like each other.
No, they are complete opposites. And yeah, they go to this island, and on this island, the mayor of the island is trying to capitalize off this plant of, hey, we can kind of get rid of our tourism thing and get all these annoying rich people that come to our hotel and casino just to eat chicken, and we can actually start making this plant, and that will get us a lot more money. We can be like the sole place where like the next best chicken impersonation food is made. And so that's what he's scheming, but at the same time, he's not treating his workers well. They all kind of hate him. And they are like slowly starting to just do this revolution that he's really not aware of. He's not really, he doesn't understand like what's happening, why it's happening, all of that stuff. So there's lots of stuff just kind of converging on this island here. And yeah, we get like big Bob secret agent from the USDA. So like, which is funny to me that it's also like another rival US government agency. Yes. And even though he said, but we're on the same side, they're like, they have different agendas. They're after different things. And she's like, stay out of my way. But then, yeah, you have the vampire in the mix who's like trying to infiltrate and his power. He's not actually a vampire, but his food-based powers is that he can get knowledge of things through eating them.
He's got the same power as Tony, but he's also got this fixation on vampires. And he's like, well, I'd get the same knowledge directly from the blood. I don't have to like chew on them or anything else. He's like, so he like shaves down his teeth and he's just living his life as a vampire. He'll bite your neck, and then that's how he gets his knowledge about you.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to make sure that was his power exactly, because down the road there is something more similar to what I mentioned, where there is someone who has a power that can take other people's powers, and so like he can,
Mm,
I'm like, now I can get the psychic impression. I can also write about it and make you do this. I can also do this
right.
and do that.
We're gonna meet a
um,
rogue.
right, yeah, yeah. So there you go. Yeah, but this island, I think is it just kind of seems small time at first, but it is just kind of this launching pad for all sorts of stuff. We get introduced to Pollo, the roaster that does all the cockfights. um
I so we in this island where chicken is legal, you learn that they do also have cockfighting as part of it.
yeah.
And there's this like celebrity chicken who's the best rooster at cockfighting. And like somebody's stolen him. He's incredibly precious. You got to get him back. And when Tony finally finds him, this rooster's wearing a little lucha libre mask.
Yep. Melissa, later on in this series, we get a totally silent episode that only follows Pollo. It's the adventures
Good.
of Pollo, and it's his like
Excellent.
backstory and how he became a cockfighter and all this stuff. It's great. It's hilarious. And it's and like I love that this series can kind of take these weird detours into, but what if there's this island over here, or what if
Yeah.
we like spent an issue with this weird chicken that we saw over here, or what
Yeah.
if there's this guy over here in Russia, or what if there's that,
As
it's just
silly
it's a
as
lot
the
of fun.
series is, it does have this depth to it. You're right, where you do feel like any side character could sustain their own one shot.
Yeah, or just be like a big enough of a recurring character that, like, I don't know if are you secretly somehow on the same side? Like, will you be an ally down the road, or will you be the main villain? What's happening here?
Mm.
There at least by the end of these first two volumes, still seems to be kind of a lot of confusion or gray areas of like, okay, what is actually happening in like the wider mystery of this book here. Which I think may be one of my well, I don't know if I'd really say it's a complaint, because like on one hand, I think the hook of this first volume, of this first issue, is good enough on its own to be like, chicken's illegal? That sounds dumb. I'm in, right? He works for the FDA and he solves crimes by eating weird body parts or fecal matter or this or that. Sounds awesome, right? I'm in. And I think just on that alone, the book would have worked. But the what ends up kind of being the overarching mystery has more to do with this bird flu, of where did this bird flu start, what caused it, all of that stuff. And I think the book, on one hand, does a good job of introducing that slowly over the course of the series and really diving into it that way. But I also kind of would have, like, I kind of wish that was introduced slightly earlier, that there is this like the bird flu in these first two volumes are almost treated as, it's just a fact. A bird flu happened. Let's move on. You don't really need to think about that. Whereas it becomes like, oh no, you actually do need to think about that. And I just wish like there was maybe a thread of like, yeah, keep that in the back of your mind. Maybe you should think about that a little bit more.
At this stage, we know very little about it. We know millions of people died, but me having only read the first two volumes, I don't really have a sense of when was this? How long did this pandemic last? How long has it been since, society feels like they're in the clear? What are the symptoms of bird flu? Like, how long does it take you to die from it? Are there people who didn't die, but they're ill in another way? Like, you learn very little about it.
Right. Yeah. But then I see how much is already packed into these books. I'm just like, I don't know if there's room to even put this
Yeah.
like just keep this in mind, like don't forget about this. So yeah, I don't know, like I have such a great time with this book that it's hard for me to call that a complaint.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. Did you have, was there anything about this that you wished like was different, wished was better? Any kind
Ah,
of complaint or negative criticism?
oh, not so much. I I had a good time. Like, I think the book is very clearly what it intends to be. And there's things that surprised me, like, oh, I thought we'd spend a little bit more time in just establishing like case of the week status quo before we start really messing with it. But I understand that's just this book's pace. That's what it wants to do. I'll let it do that. There's I can imagine in another less silly book that there would be like background signage that would help fill out the world a little bit. Like they're walking down the street and there's like a public safety poster, like, watch out for these symptoms of bird flu. And instead, it's all jokes. And I did really love all the
Yeah.
background joke signs and how they're so casually scribbled in. Like they all feel like really tossed off, like it was a pencil joke that just never got anything more serious inked over it.
Yeah.
But I really like that. That's very charming.
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
favorite one is when they go to the hut where the two guys are watching over the kidnapped Poyo. And there's a poster on the wall that's just a drawing of a sandwich, and it just says sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. Sandwich.
Right. And it's like a picture of their mom that's labeled mom. Like nobody has a picture of their mom that says mom on it. And they're watching
in case
TV
they forget, right? Just like,
right,
oh yeah,
mom.
who's that again?
Like if it was just a portrait of an older woman, we could surmise maybe that's their mother. No,
Yeah.
we gotta label it. Must know, mom. And like they're watching TV, and what they're watching is a pasted in screenshot of the movie Mary Poppins. And I really puzzled over that for a while. Why Mary Poppins?
Who knows? I don't know. Yeah. There's all kinds of jokes like that. I will say that maybe there is some signage that does kind of build out the world, but it is also jokes, right? Like
Yeah.
there is stuff that's like, okay, I get the joke here, but that does help, right? That I get that there is some kind of public safety something. Watch out for sympathy diarrhea, right? Or stuff like that. Who knows? So yeah, I think there is a lot to love with this book here. And there is a lot of this book for you to check out.
Yeah. Reading it, it seems so much like it should be an Adult Swim show. I am
Mhm.
really disappointed that it isn't.
Right. Yeah. It just, it seems like they got started on a show and then kind of went into development hell, and then it was dead, and then started with an animated show and then kind of didn't work and all that stuff. I do also want to briefly mention, to go back to Amelia real quick. I also like that in this, like so many times in a movie or a show that we're watching, we get the sequence that you've always talked about, the like soft focus around the beautiful girl the first time he sees her, right? Just like, oh, she's beautiful. And we get the comic version of that, where like background completely changes to this like pink, he gets the like hearts around his face, this big old puppy dog smile that almost looks like the smile that the Grinch has, but not evil, right? Just like in the like weird shapes of his mouth and stuff like that. It's just kind of fun that we get things like that in this book. The artwork in this book is just wildly expressive. It is colorful. Yeah, even when like people are chewing or eating food. Anytime that the sound effect is chew, they use the logo of the
Mm.
book instead
Yeah.
of like some other font like Kablam or who knows what. But yeah, it's expressive, it's bright, it's colorful. There's so much happening on every page. Um, and I do remember that as the book goes on, I mean, as any artist kind of would, the more and more use they get to drawing those characters in that world, they get better, right? Um, and I do remember at one point reading one of the issues, I was just like, man, the artwork in this just seems so much better than like
Hmm.
when you go back and look at like volume one. Here it is. Like, so the artwork does improve, but it's not like, oh, the artwork changed. And I don't know if I like the
Mm.
artwork. It's the same style, the same character designs. It's just like, man, you can see the artist like growing with this book, and that's really cool. Um,
To talk about the art briefly, when they're
mhm,
on the island, there's this little guy who is pushing the weird chicken fruit. And I think you learn he's like the governor of the island, and he's actually like a really sweet character. Like he wanted to have this fruit that would like save the island and give it this reliable tourism. He's like, oh, if there's any threat from chickens, like this will keep us safe. We have this fruit that tastes like a chicken. I can
mhm,
make my island prosperous. Like he's secretly very noble, but he's sort of this mysterious, kind of sinister character lurking around. And he's this little guy with a little hat and these big eyes. And I'm like, he looks like somebody. Who is he? And I spent issues trying to figure it out. And I realized I don't know if this is what the artist intended, but who this character reminds me of is a villain from one episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog named Doc Gerbil.
Doc Cherble. Let me look him
I
up, see
just
if I
needed to
can
say this in case anybody
bring him
else
up
was
on
in the same
screen.
boat I was. Why do I? What is this combination of
Doc
little hat and big
Gerbil.
eyes? Why does this mean something to me? It's Doc Gerbil.
Let me bring this up on screen so everyone else can see. This is so weird. Doc Gerbil. Yeah, I can see that. I don't know if that was intended, but I get what you're talking about though, because there's another episode, not episode, but in the same way that Tony, and I always forget his partner's name. Let me see if I can find it here. What is it? What is his partner's name? John
Jack?
Colby. John Colby.
Oh, it was
Um,
a different type of cheese.
right. Yes. Um, um, and like in the same way that they look like Miles and Sawyer from that one alternate universe and Lost. Spoilers for Lost. Who cares? There's other characters that will look like different characters
Mm,
from TV shows or movies or stuff like
yeah,
that.
we have a Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction wandering around.
We do, yeah. But then there's one guy, white guy, redhead, mustache. I don't know the actor's name, but I can like see him in my mind or like what he's in specifically. I'm sure he's been in something else we've covered on
Yeah.
the review show. Who knows? But it's one of those things. If you saw a picture side by side, you're like, oh yeah, it's meant to be that guy,
Right.
right?
There's in like issue 2, there's a health inspector who dies, and that health inspector is exactly a William H. Macy.
Right. Yeah. And like I like that. I like Easter eggs like that
Yeah.
because it's recognizable enough that it's like, oh, it's that guy, right? But also the art is so stylized and so much like
Mm,
this is our own character or our own version of that
mm.
character. Um that it's not like, oh, you're just kind of copying some other character or other it's just yeah, it's so stylized that it's just fun, right? It's like, oh, that guy, yeah, cool.
Mhm. As we get towards the end of our discussion here, I need to highlight the creator bios at the end of the book
Go for it.
because these are great fun. First off, writer John Layman his profile picture is him on a piece of bread. You
Like
know,
the
like
Jesus
those,
toast. Yeah.
right, right. Yeah, like I saw the Virgin Mary in a tortilla. It's like him on a bread.
Yeah.
And his
It's great.
bio for the first volume says, John Layman is terrifically old and has suffered terribly throughout his entire life. Every day, every step, every breath brings him a new and terrible type of pain. And yet he perseveres. For you, dear reader, for you. And then in volume 2, they have different bios for each volume, which I really appreciated.
That's cool.
Artist Rob Guillory's bio says, he still lives and works in palatial Lafayette, Louisiana, where the party, all caps, never ends. In between engaging in the type of sordid sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle that all comics artists enjoy. He's a wife and a cat.
That's great.
I look forward to reading more of these bios. I love when a bio gets as much attention as the main text of a book.
Yeah, indeed. Good stuff. Do you have any other kind of final stuff that you want to add about Chu?
No. Had a good time. Enjoyed it. I think there's some blood and guts in here, but the whole thing's so silly and juvenile. Like if you had like a middle school aged cousin, if you needed to get a book for a 14-year-old boy, this would be a great gift.
Yeah. Yeah, highly recommend it. It is silly as hell. It's a lot of fun, a lot of good jokes. But yeah, like I said, as it goes on, you get to see the artist and writer kind of mature with the book here and grow into it. The pacing feels a little bit better. The artwork is more detailed, stuff like that. So it is a journey that I think is well worth your time. Go check out Chu. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. Okay, let's see here. Time for us to check in on bingo. I am pulling this up on screen for everyone to see. Well, first question. We don't actually get an actor from Lost, but we get character designs from Lost.
I will count that. I will count that. Yes.
Let's see here. There we go.
I can cross off more machine than man.
Yeah.
For Cyborg John Colby.
Let's see.
I guess I can get Bikini Babe Party when we go see those scientists in their secret party bunker.
Yeah. Indeed. Anyone who died for their art? I don't know. I don't think so.
Not yet.
No time loop, no mysterious scar, because the scars get covered up by cybernetics.
The stars, we understand the scars very well. No mystery there.
Yeah.
I have character gets love interest's phone number.
Sure.
There is a scene where Tony calls Amelia Mintz, but I don't remember if like she gave him her number or if, he just has her number from the file. It's the acquiring of the number that was important to me. This thing that was so important once upon a time that we don't have anymore. You're not desperate to get somebody's phone number. I think it's quaint.
Yeah. I think the only other one that I have is my quota, my 3 planets. I need to have gone to 3 different planets, and we went to a different one in this book. So I'm gonna update this to 2 out of 3.
This book seems like it should have had a cow.
I'm sure it will at some point. I'm sure. Here's one signature snack. How do you feel about beets?
The beets.
The beets.
We don't actually see him eat those that often, but that does count.
It's reoccurring.
Both get signature snack.
Yeah. I just thought about that, which also gives me my first bingo.
Congrats.
Woohoo! Bingo, bingo, bingo. Cool. I think that is all we have right now. But yeah, I can see, I don't remember if it actually happens, but I can see like arted to death, like someone dies for their art kind of thing happening. Or yeah, like you said, a cow, the reaction of an animal to judge trustworthiness. Pollo, do you trust him? Right?
You don't
Stuff
gotta
like
impress
that.
me. You gotta impress Pollo. He makes
Right,
the
yeah.
rules.
Yeah, exactly. So who knows? Who knows? Lots of fun things in this book. But I think that is our bingo check-in. Melissa, do you have any other ones on there?
No.
You think? No? Okay. Cool indeed. Well, that brings us to recommendations. Melissa, for people who enjoyed Chew, what else might they like?
This really reminded me of Pushing Daisies. You already mentioned Hannibal, which is one culinary-based TV show from Brian Fuller, and this is another. Pushing Daisies is about Ned the Pie Maker. No full name given. He is Ned the Pie Maker, and he has a power where if he touches something, he can bring it back to life if it is dead, for anything organic. And this works for people. If he touches a dead body, they'll wake up for a minute, and he uses this to like help a private eye as a side gig to help solve crimes. Who murdered you? I don't know. Tap, you're awake for a minute, we can ask you. And then his power has a consequence where if he doesn't if he touches the person again, then they die forever and he can never wake them back up. Sure, touch once, you're alive. Touch two, dead. Total deadsies. No reversing that. And if he doesn't touch somebody again within a minute, something else will die in their place. So he does this. He finds that one of the dead bodies on the case he's working on with this detective is an old childhood sweetheart of his. So he brings her back to life and cannot bring himself to kill her. And so the two of them she's back to life now, permanently. And the two of them have to cohabitate as sweethearts when they cannot touch each other. And they like kiss each other through saran wrap. They put on full beekeeper outfits and then they waltz. It's a really fun logic puzzle. And also, as a pie maker, he has a restaurant called The Pie Hole. He will buy rotten fruit that he can get for extremely cheaply. And then he will touch the fruit and it will like come back to full, plump, juicy, fresh life. And he will use that to bake his pies. And it's frugal enough to keep the restaurant going. Yeah. But then he can never eat that pie. Because if he touched the fruit back to life, as soon as he touched it again, as soon as he put the pie in his mouth, those are rotten apples. He's having a disgusting time. So if you want to see another story about somebody with a power that is not food related directly, but can be applied to food and has sort of interesting rules and consequences and repercussions, Pushing Daisies, another delightfully silly crime of the week show.
Yeah. Let me see. I know we covered it here on
once long ago. Yeah.
Let me look up what episode that was.
That was probably like 39 or something. We did that very early.
Oh, close. Episode 43. Melissa just pulling that one out. It was 39. Almost hitting it.
That was one of my earliest goals. We must discuss Pushing Daisies. Millennial favorite Pushing Daisies. Please find the Doc Gerbil episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog. And another thing this book reminded me of is there's an episode of Invader Zim where alien Invader Zim he's an alien who comes to Earth to invade, and he masquerades as like a kid who goes to school. And his enemy is a little conspiracy theorist boy in a little trench coat. And there's an episode about that boy where he goes on a side adventure hunting for some local cryptid called Chickenfoot.
Okay.
Where he has to go through like the seedy secrets of a local like fried chicken restaurant. Uh,
Interesting.
Also, the creator of Invader Zim, Jonan Vasquez, was a comics artist, and I used to read his books because I really liked Invader Zim back in
Mhm.
the early 2000s. The whole family loved it. A Wilkinson favorite, Invader Zim. And I found his comics at like a Hot Topic or something. And he had a book called
Interesting.
Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, which
Mhm.
sounds as dark as it is, as dark as it sounds, but is also like just really silly and dumb. And also has the same energy of tiny scribbled in background jokes.
Yeah.
Were there
Yeah. Isn't
a
that
poster
didn't
on
they
the wall
make
that
a Keanu Reeves movie with that or something like that?
no,
Johnny and the
you're
Homicidal
thinking of
Maniac?
Johnny Mnemonic. That's very different.
I feel like there was
You're
some
thinking
movie
of
adaptation.
Constantine.
No, I might be thinking of of Johnny Mnemonic, but I feel like there was something
I,
else with that.
from what I remember of
I
these
don't know.
comics I've not looked at in 20 years, they had a similar energy of a poster on the wall with a drawing of a sandwich and it just says sandwich. That
Right,
same
yeah.
energy is there if you want more of it.
Interesting. Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. I'm looking up the Wikipedia.
I assure you, this was never optioned as a Keanu Reeves
No.
project. That's impossible.
Well, yeah, you never know. I don't know. Cool. Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. Jonan Vasquez. Yeah, lots of character in that artwork there. Great stuff. Cool. So yeah, I mean, I already mentioned Hannibal and iZombie. I think iZombie does take the more case of the week format that maybe you were expecting, Melissa. Of course, she eats brains. She is a zombie and has to eat brains to stay human passing in the show.
Yes.
I know the show is based off of some comics of the same name. I have not read the comics, but from what I understand, the comics are vastly different. So I don't know what is in store if you go check out those comics, but go watch the show for sure. I had a lot of fun with that one. And then Hannibal, of course, did we all know that one? Hannibal the Cannibal. Lots of food. Just the way the food it looks and is prepared in that, like there's almost as much care into those scenes where he's cooking as like the entirety of the show.
Hannibal is a capital S sumptuous show. The whole thing is lavish. It feels decadent.
Good word indeed. And we covered Hannibal season 1 way back on episode 126. So if you want to hear us talk about that, it's out there. I mean, this also just kind of fits it. Like if you like crime shows, if you like it fits in that genre. It fits in the like international super spy stuff, but it like is not wholly that, right? Like it is not the James Bond, it is not the Mission Impossible. But if you like this, you might enjoy those, right?
Yeah.
You know what? Fast and the Furious, I feel like, is a good recommendation for this book. If you like just the wild antics that happen in this book, Fast and the Furious almost is just as wild and crazy. So go check all of that stuff out. I don't think I have really any other like crime / food related stuff that I can really share or talk about. A long time ago on the show, we did also talk about Chow Down Champs, a sports manga all about competitive eating, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, I think that's our recommendations. Good food. Go watch Delicatessen or something like that, right? Some other food related movies. Was that one that came out 2 years ago? The Menu or
I like
something?
The Menu a lot. Can you imagine an episode of Hot Ones where Sean Evans asks the interviewee a question, but Sean Evans has this cybopathy power. So he just goes over and like licks their hand and he's like, I know the answer to my question. Thank you. I won't be engaging in the Hot Ones. You have to, but you eat the hot wings, I eat you. This has been an interview. Thank you for promoting your new movie.
Sure, I guess. Just half an hour of the one guy eating his food, and that's it. So yeah, good stuff. I think that's our recommendations for this time. All right. For next episode, Melissa, we are diving into The Bear. We will be watching seasons 1 and 2 of The Bear in preparation for season 3 coming out later this month.
It's culinary June here. By absolute mistake, unplanned. Welcome to Food June.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, it's absolute incredible television show. I've seen the first season 2 or 3 times now. One that I have mentioned a lot. I know Melissa has heard this not just from me, but from lots of other people. Go watch The Bear. Melissa,
going to.
You haven't seen it yet.
No, I'm busy with this.
Yeah.
Every time somebody asks me why I haven't seen one thing, I'm like, I look at the nearly 300 review show episodes I've done, and that's
right,
why.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to watch Pushing Daisies again.
Yeah, so we are going to be watching seasons 1 and 2 of The Bear. And yeah, we will see you in 2 weeks' time for all of that goodness. So yeah, there you go. Good stuff. That about wraps us up for this week. So, Melissa, where can they find you?
If you'd like to talk to me, you can email me the old-fashioned way at yourhostmelissa@gmail.com.
Perfect. If you guys want to follow me, I am at YoKyleSpringer. And if you want to stay up to date with all the stuff that we do here on the show, we are at the Whatnauts official on Threads. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. If you're watching this on YouTube, plenty more videos over there on that side of the screen. Go check them out. That would help us out as well. So yeah, this has been number 294 of the Whatnauts review show. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.